I wore this shirt one time on a hockey video where I was just being myself, and people asked what it said, and I didn't tell them. So there you go. Let's go. I assume that's batch. I think it says batch. It's kind of hard to read. Hard to read. And then there's a letter that's kind of out. So maybe it's Bateau. It could be Bateau. Let's go Bateau, which I assume is Latin for friend. Let's go friend. So I'm sure since it's an Ash versus Evil Dead shirt, it's let's go friend. Let us go friend. And so friends, we continue the countdown today with me wearing a Star Wars hat and an Ash versus Evil Dead shirt. Yeah, I got two of them. Um, and let's get back into it. And it's funny because today this part of the countdown is no, there's a horror movie in it. I was gonna say there's no horror movies. Yeah, no, there's one in it. Um, all right, number 140. Ella Enchanted. Um, Anne Hathaway's funny. Anne Hathaway's a woman that I can find charming, very attractive, and witty. And then in other movies, I think she's kind of scary looking and strange. And the funny part of that is it shows her range. She can adapt herself to any role and make it work. Now in Ella Enchanted, she was playing another squeaky clean, very Snow Whitish kind of character. Or I guess it's more Cinderella because Ella. But my point is, this was when she was still playing the squeaky clean roles. But this was a fun little movie. Now, there's the dark side of this movie. Ella is enchanted so that she'll do whatever anybody tells her to do, no matter what it is. And I remember hearing the plot of this and seeing Anna Hathaway, and I'm like, oh, that could be fun if this wasn't rated G. But despite the fact that she's around a lot of males in this movie, and there's some people who figure out that no matter what you tell her, she has to do it. That side of it is never touched, and it's for the best because it would completely change. It'd be Clockwork Orange at that point. Um, I completely fell for Anne Hathaway in this role. I can't say I fell for her as Catwoman in Batman. I can't say that about anything. So she is capable of being enchanting in a role where she's enchanted. So bonus points to her. 139. Oh, my writing's awful today. 51st Dates. Adam Sandler is a black hole when it comes to comedy now. There's nothing funny about Adam Sandler movies anymore. This was the last one that was really good. Now, there's the Rob Schneider racist character that you kind of have to get past. If you can forget him, it's a really good movie. Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler on screen genuinely have good chemistry in this one and in Wedding Singer. And this is a fun movie. It's not meant to be taken seriously on any level. Um, the kind of amnesia that her character has in this movie is ridiculous and strange, and it's kind of there's a better movie that idea is taken from, which of course is Memento. Memento is on this chart. It is much higher than this movie. But 51st Dates is fun. It's a good little movie. It's got its moments. So I'm not going to say anything bad about it because I genuinely enjoy the movie. It's actually a good little movie. 138. I'm going to take heat on this one. Dark Knight's not on my list. Batman Begins is not on my list. Uh, Dark Knight Rises is not on my list. Batman, 1989, Michael Keaton is on the list. The Michael Keaton Batman, for me, was the best Batman. And no matter what Growly McGrowlpants does in that other trilogy that is okay, Christian Bale, I just never found that he got close to what Michael Keaton did with the role. He didn't have to talk like I'm Batman. I couldn't stop laughing during Dark Knight every time he talked as Batman. I couldn't stop. Anytime I watch any of the Batman movies with Christian Bale in it, and I can't Because for me, I hear Cookie Monster. That's my problem. When he starts growling as Batman, I hear Cookie Monster. Joker, Joker have cookie? Like I'm waiting for, or I guess Kevin from The Office as well. Now, if Kevin from The Office was Batman, I'm there. I am watching that movie. That's gonna just the awkward silences of him standing there. I'm Batman. Where he'd be in the costume, but it would barely fit, and you could see almost his entire face, and people are trying to ignore him because Batman's really awkward and weird. Make that movie happen, Hollywood. Make it happen. The 1989 Batman is fun, and I also have the Adam West Batman movie from the 60s, which is a great movie. And to me, the new trilogy was just, let's make it dark. Okay, let's make it really dark and really violent, because that's what everybody wants to see. Kind of, sorta. The Dark Knight comics were good, but to me, Batman at its heart is a silly concept. Guy dressing up as a bat, kind of silly. And, not Fantastic Four silly. Nothing's Fantastic Four silly. But silly enough that the movie takes itself way too seriously. Like, seriously. Way, way too seriously. Batman from 1989 doesn't. Jack Nicholson's fantastic. And there's some great work from a lot of actors in that movie. And you forget how good it is until you watch it again. I watched the first half hour of it again recently. I didn't watch the whole thing because Yvonne was busy, and I want to watch it with her from start to finish because she's never seen it. She's a huge Tim Burton fan, and she's never seen Batman from 1989. I don't know how that works. I don't. But anyways, while that series would become Batman and Robin, which was easily one of the most disgustingly bad movies in history, the 1989 movie's pretty good. 137, and I really wish this board would stop moving like that. Alright. Because, yeah, it's easier to read when it's straight. I need something to hold it at the top, I think. 137. Yep, that would definitely make it better. I need something attached to the top. Okay. Swingers. Vegas, baby. Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau before they became big stars. Swingers is a fun movie, and it's one of those ones that I used to go to the dingy VHS rental store, and the owner there was a really cool guy, Darren. It was funny, my mom used to go there, and she was like, I don't want to go there anymore because I don't like that gungy looking guy who's always got the Flyers hat on. And I said, he's the owner. Like, he owns it, Mom. Anyways, he recommended Swingers to me the first time I watched it. He also recommended Clerks to me, so he recommended some really good movies. Usually, if Darren said this, watch that, it's a good show, then it was good. The only thing the only time we ever had any kind of issue was the one time I walked in wearing a Toronto Maple Leafs jersey, and this may be some coarse language, so we're heads up. I wore a Toronto Maple Leafs jersey. I went in, I grabbed a movie, I brought it up to the front, and he looks at the movie, looks at my shirt, and he says, "Get the fuck out of my store. Get out." And I'm like, okay, no, seriously, just, I want to rent this. He took the VHS tape, dropped it on the floor, and he goes, "No, get out. You can't rent in my store if you're going to wear that crap." He did eventually let me rent from him. He wanted to charge me double. We eventually settled on me paying the regular price and not wearing Toronto gear anymore. So there's a little story, but Swingers wasn't the movie that I was renting at the time. It's a funny story I think of when I think about that time in my life. It was a lot of fun. I miss the video store sometimes. I do. I miss going to the video store and renting movies. And yet they're almost all completely gone. And the ones that are left are kind of sad. But Swingers reminds me of that time, and it was a fun movie to discover. I always identified with Mike in the movie, so Jon Favreau's character. I totally identified. When he comes home from the bar from meeting this really hot girl, and she is gorgeous, and he blows it. So he gets nervous, and he's like, I'm supposed to wait before I call her, but she gave me your number, so I'm going to call her. Oh, that message was crap. I have to call her back and fix that last message. Oh, why am I calling? Like, you watch him nosedive into blowing it with this girl before he's even talked to her. It is such a painful scene for me, and it reminds me so much of something I would have done back then that I can't watch it. I don't. I just fast forward through it. Like, I can't watch Mike burn, crash and burn with this girl. I mean, in the end, it's fine. There's a happy ending on there, but that part is just, it's hard to watch, because I've been the guy that's like, all right, I'm nervous. This chick's really hot. Okay, how am I going to do this? Well, Shannon, you're going to blow it. And, of course, I would. 136. From around the same point in time, Gremlins 2, the new batch. Gremlins 2, the highlight is the talking gremlin. Um, and there's really not a whole lot else to say. Tony Randall as the talking gremlin is a perfect choice. It is a funny movie. It is any scares the first movie had. This one really doesn't have them. The only part that's even creepy is the one gremlin when he's in the dentist, in the dentist office with the drill. But even that is kind of sanitized, and there's some fun stuff in it. The way that the whole building works is hilarious. And the weird part is that at the time, the idea of having lighting that's motion activated, so you have to move around so the room knows you didn't leave and the lights don't turn off. I now work at a place that kind of has that. So it's funny because every time I go into a room and I'm like, oh, the lights came on because I walked in here, I'm reminded of Gremlins too, and I sort of feel for a moment like I'm in that building. It's not as good as the original, but in some ways it's more entertaining because it really just goes straight for laughs. The original Gremlins, there's a dark underside to it. This one, there really isn't. This one is just hilarious. And Phoebe Cates. Oh, every boy in the 80s had a crush on Phoebe Cates, am I right? Like, Phoebe Cates was the best looking woman done. Done. And there was no way around it. So, her part in Gremlins 2, you fall in love all over again if you're a kid of the 80s like myself. Born in the 70s but grew up in the 80s, you guys know what I mean. 135. This movie initially was in my top 100, but I couldn't leave it there. Contact, based on a book by Carl Sagan. Contact stars Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey as she's a scientist who's listening for alien signals. She's of course portrayed as an atheist, and which Carl Sagan was as well. And then there's some weird god storyline in there too that I thought was unnecessary. But anyways, um, it's a really good show, and it's a movie that's a little bit slow. It's a little bit long in parts, but the way that they portray an alien society reaching out to us and communicating with us and making the interstellar distances work, it's actually really creative, and I could totally see that working. That's how I know the science behind the main storyline has to have come from Carl Sagan's book, because there's no way some hack in Hollywood could have come up with that idea. Um, there are some tough moments. There's no big eureka in this. It doesn't end like Close Encounters with mankind and aliens running off together. There's kind of a screw you moment in the movie, and for people who haven't seen it, I'm not going to get into it, but there's some people who don't like when an alien finally appears to Jodie Foster, how it appears to her. I get it. I get it. But I understand why people didn't like that. They didn't like that part of it, so I forgive that hatred because I get why they hated it. But it's a good film. And Jodie Foster, I always liked her since back in the 70s, and it was fun to see her in a movie that had a lot of science to it, and it again shows that she's a really, really strong actress. Underneath all the other roles she played as a teenager, she actually grew up to be a very, very good actress. 134. The 1984 edition. So don't get this confused with the remake. The remake's mostly crap. Footloose, Kevin Bacon. This is a more serious movie than I think it's given credit for. All you see when they talk about Footloose is Kevin Bacon's character dancing in a warehouse. That's a small scene in the movie. It's memorable because there's some really good dance moves in there. And I know as a teenager I tried over and over again to imitate those dance moves, and there are a few that I may still have in my repertoire when I've had a couple of drinks and get out on the dance floor. But in general, I can't imitate what he does in the movie. Anytime I watch, I can go, I can do that, and I can do that. I can't that. No, I can't. That flippy thing, I can't. No, and he almost kicks himself in the face here. I don't think I can do that. Like, there's a lot of moments in it, and yet what the movie's about really is there's the religious right argument against progress and against what kids want to do, and the idea of, is dancing a sin? Should they be having this dance in town when they figure out a way around it? Is it right? Is it wrong? Um, Really, really good movie, and very serious movie. The only thing that I ever laughed at with it was that there's a scene where, um, I want to say Laurie Singer. I want to say her name's Laurie Singer. She gets slapped by her father. Is it her mother or her father? I'm pretty sure it's her dad. Slaps her across the face. And the slap is really poorly timed by whoever edited the movie together. So the slap's like a half a second after she gets hit. And it takes you out of the moment because you're like, wait, that slap wasn't close. As a teenager, I thought it was funny. Now I wouldn't even notice. I'm middle aged and I would hate to see, a woman that I care about get slapped. But as a teenager, you go, yeah, no, wow, that slap was off. And as I said, a much more serious movie, a much more thoughtful movie than it gets credit for. And for me, it definitely belongs in here. 133. I know there are people who don't like this movie. I know there are people who look at Drag Me to Hell, and Drag Me to Hell is the only horror movie out in this top 10. There are people who look at Drag Me to Hell and they don't like it. You know why? Because Sam Raimi's like that. Sam Raimi, you either love his work or you hate it. Um, this was Sam Raimi returning to the world of the Evil Dead without making an Evil Dead movie. Because it has some of the same beats, it has some of the same ideas. And it messes with you. And then in the end, you're like, oh, really? Um, the main character in the movie, portrayed by Alison Lohman, she's kind of stupid throughout the movie. and part of the whole idea of horror movies is people in them kind of have to be stupid. If people in horror movies made the right decisions, the cops get involved a lot faster, and the movie's only 10 minutes long. Um, Drag Me to Hell is predicated on the idea that people don't make good decisions in horror movies, and she definitely doesn't. There are a few moments the first time that I watched the movie that I kind of groaned and went, seriously, why? No, this is bad. Stop it. Um, but people who don't give loans and banks are pretty evil anyway. So maybe the gypsy in this movie's the good guy. But either way, this was a movie that the first time I watched it, I genuinely found it terrifying, and I understand other people didn't. My son did. For my son, he found this one terrifying, and It Follows was the other one, and he had trouble sleeping after this one, and it was to the point where there were times where I couldn't get him to do what I told him, so I'd be like, "Do you want me to put Drag Me to Hell on?" No, no. Then go do what you're told. So it's a parental threat to children. That might be something you want to put on the box. Parental threat to children. Number 132. Michael Douglas has never been one of my favorite actors. In fact, I couldn't stand Michael Douglas in the late 80s, early 90s. Anytime I saw his name on a movie, I'd be like, oh, I'm not going to like this. Um, because he always seemed to play a prick. And to me, once you've played a prick in more than, say, 2 or 3 movies, I start to suspect that maybe you're not entirely acting. Maybe that's part of who you are. Maybe you really are kind of a prick to people, and that might be completely false. You might be really good at playing the part, but eventually, for me, again, in my early 20s, late teens, I would see him in Fatal Attraction, Basic Instinct, and all this, and it's like, you know what? I don't like this guy. So Falling Down comes out. It was years after that I finally watched it. Oh my god, this movie is so good. It is so intense. And what I like with it is it tells a small story and it stays small. So instead of this guy gets out of his car and he starts walking through the city and it builds up and eventually he's in Dodger Stadium and he's got 60,000 people held hostage. What's going to happen? And there's explosions everywhere. Instead of doing what would have been done if Michael Bay made this movie, uh, it stays small. He commits crimes that don't look like they're connected, so I can understand that the police wouldn't put it together right away. Especially because, and the movie kind of hints at this, because it's a white guy who's going on a bit of a rampage in an area of the city that's known for minority crime. I could see that. I could see the cops not necessarily putting it together right away. So this one guy's retiring and he puts it together, and the rest of the cops are like, well, whatever. You just go retire. You're crazy. Stop being crazy. Um, Falling down shows he's not crazy. Falling down shows that, and I think what I really like with Falling Down, if you've never seen it, I won't spoil it. The climax, the ending of the movie, is beautifully small. It is a one-on-one confrontation that is so well done, so well done, and yet that railing should have been a lot stronger than that. But that's neither here nor there. That's an infrastructure problem. Um, I really enjoy everything of this movie, and I enjoy that it ends small. It starts small, it ends small. There's no big explosions. There's one big explosion kind of over halfway through the movie, but that's funny too. So when he's trying to figure out how to work a rocket launcher, and the little kid comes along and helps him figure it out. So these passersby who are like, I don't know, I guess they're making a movie. It's LA, so they're probably making a movie. Here's how you fire a rocket launcher, mister. Absolutely hilarious. Just awesome. Just great. And it is one of those moments where throughout Michael Douglas's character is given little moments, glimmering moments where you feel bad for him. And yet once you reach the ending, you really don't want him to succeed because his brain's messed up and he's got some bad ideas in his head. 131. Ending this countdown here, and I think people are going to watch this part of the countdown and say, "Hey, look, the movies are actually pretty darn good." Misery. Misery would be higher up. Um, I don't know. Misery, the rewatchability, I think drags Misery down. I don't know how rewatchable it is. I've watched it, I think, 2 or 3 times. Um, it is a creepy movie. Kathy Bates, for me, has never fully emerged from the character she plays here. And that's because she played it so well, and it was such a fantastically done movie. I think when you look at the career of Stephen King as a writer, and then you look at the movies that have been made, I think the better movies have been based on the non-horror books. Um, Dolores Claiborne's another good one if you haven't seen it. It's not on the countdown, but it's a very good movie. Um, and we'll get to Green Mile when I get up to that level. Green Mile's another one, not a horror. Shawshank Redemption, not a horror. Um, there are some very, very good stories told by Stephen King. Do I think he's overrated? Probably a little bit. But um, Misery is a fantastic story. And you really feel for the writer when he's hobbled. That scene, this is going to hurt me more than you, and, the sledgehammer. Oh boy, that you flinch every time. Every time, every time you see that scene, even if it's just that scene isolated, you're like, oh man, that just ow. Um, and she feels like she's doing it for the right reasons. And there are so many moments in the movie where you feel so bad for him. It's like he's got this great, oh, I've written a new book, and then fire. Oh crap. And then of course, there's a weird ending to it. There's kind of a fun little ending that you ask yourself, how much PTSD has this guy gone through? How much PTSD does he have from what he's gone through? So there you go. We're up to 131, and it's a list. There's movies on it, and I'm getting closer to the halfway mark. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing right through. You just have to go on this video and going, why is this guy doing his top 200 movies? Because I did my 100 favorite songs, and I feel like I kind of have to do my 200 favorite movies. I would have done 100, but look at all the great movies that would have been left out, and people would have been commenting about in the comment section and saying, how can you not have this movie in there? Well, now you'll know where a lot of them are. Somebody commented about the Kill Bill series. Kill Bill Volume 1 is an excellent movie. The problem with Kill Bill 2 is that it drags the first part down. So because Kill Bill 1 is a really good movie and Kill Bill 2 is kind of meh, it makes it so Kill Bill 1, I don't really have any motivation to watch it because I don't really want to watch 2 again. So as much as I love Daryl Hannah with the eye patch as the evil Nook and Nurse character, and as much as I love everything Uma Thurman did in that movie, it gets dragged down by the second part. So it's not on the charts. I own them. So I'll put that out there. I do own Kill Bill 1 and 2. Yvonne hasn't seen them, and I've hesitated to show them to her, not because I don't enjoy them, but because of the excessive violence. And the violence is hilarious in Kill Bill. It's not meant to be taken seriously, but for somebody who's a little squeamish with blood, I'm a little less likely to show it to her. And as a final note for people who are like, we want to see Yvonne's list, I agree, but she has to want to do it, and she has to feel confident doing it. So she still doesn't think that people want to see her list. She thinks that I'm the star of the channel, like on the hockey channel, and yet every time she's in videos, people are like, we want to see more of her. She's awesome. I agree. I'm working on it. Thanks for watching. Hit the like and subscribe buttons. They're your friends, and I'll talk to you again soon.